Hello, everyone. I am Tanvi Kapoor. I am a product marketing manager at Meta on the business messaging team. I'm also joined by my colleague Swapnil, who leads engineering for our messaging APIs. And together we work on our API experiences and are responsible for features on the Instagram API like private replies, ad referral parameters, etc. Swapnil, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone, I'm Swapnil Chavra. I'm software engineer leading the messaging API platform team. Uh, been working on the in this space for a few years now. Excited to be here and hear directly from our community. Thanks, Tanvi.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you have an app which different Instagram users use to connect and respond to the messages they get or comment on posts, then this webinar is for you. We will share with you a new onboarding flow you can integrate to make it easier for Instagram businesses to connect with your app, as well as new features that we have launched on the Instagram API in the past 1 year. Just in terms of logistics, we will have time at the end for questions. So please do type in your questions in the Q&A box in the Zoom panel. Just so you know, this webinar is also being recorded and will be uploaded in the Meta for Developers site. So you can watch it again if you miss something or want to share it with your colleagues who were not able to join. So let's get started. The Messenger API for Instagram enables brands to connect with customers on their preferred messaging channel. Integrating with existing tools and data, the Messenger API for Instagram makes managing high volumes of customer messages easier, helping to turn conversations into business outcomes. Our mission is to make messaging the primary way people and businesses communicate. Business messaging has immense untapped growth potential, and we want to accelerate the shift from phone and email. In a survey conducted by Gartner, it was reported that by 2025, 80% of customer service organizations will have abandoned native mobile apps in favor of messaging. We expect messaging interactions to grow exponentially. In fact, 1 billion people connect with a business across our different messaging services, such as Messenger, Instagram DMs, or WhatsApp globally. In this world where there is so much competition and information is king, 68% of people surveyed shared that they prefer working with a business that they can chat with. And 55% shared they would rather work via messaging or buy via messaging than go physically into a store. That makes sense because via messaging, you're bringing the convenience of online shopping along with the personalized attention that an in-person, sales agent could give you by answering all of your questions in a single place. Leveraging Instagram to run your business is a great strategy. With more than 1 billion monthly active people on the platform, it's where the users are already spending time. It has the advantage of representing real identities without the concerns of sharing personal details like phone numbers that customers may have when starting out their interactions with a business. Now add on to it the benefits of using the API, which developers like yourself are facilitating. It has support for rich media like videos, images, and GIFs, as well as rich features like buttons and templates. It also gives you the option to communicate in different ways with the user. There is a persistent thread that can be used to check the history of the conversation. You can decide to respond in real time or asynchronously and easily re-engage with the users with complementary information. The API allows businesses to scale their communication while also automating simple tasks like welcome messages or responses based on keywords, answers to common questions, etc. So let's talk about what's new with the Messenger API for Instagram. There are 4 broad areas that we will share about today where we have launched new features. The first is making it easier for businesses to connect with your Instagram app, where we will go into the demo of our new onboarding flow. The second is how do we make it easy for businesses to connect with users, where we'll talk about some of the new options that are available on how you contact the users. The third will be around helping businesses connect with users with richer interactions. So I'll share what we've launched recently in terms of different templates, different media types supported, new APIs. And then finally, we'll talk about how we can help businesses measure the ROI of their Instagram channel, where we'll talk about ad referral webhooks. So let's start with the first step, which is onboarding. If you integrate it with the Messenger API for Instagram back when it was launched in 2021, you might be familiar with the initial experience. There are a few steps involved for connecting the Instagram channel to your app. The first is converting the Instagram account to a professional account, connecting the Instagram account to a Facebook page, giving the necessary permissions to access messages, posts, comments, etc., and then enabling the toggle to allow third-party apps to access Instagram messages. All these 4 steps were required to be performed across different surfaces. Some were in Facebook page settings, some in the Instagram mobile app, some on your Instagram account. This is obviously not an ideal experience and leaves too much scope for error or missteps. The onus is on the user to be really motivated to go through these steps methodically and probably creates a lot of unnecessary queries for your support teams. This was obviously the very first version of the onboarding flow, and basis your feedback, we have improved this to create a guided flow via modal pop-ups that drastically improves the user experience. You can see a video of this right here on the screen. It reduces the number of steps required for the Instagram account to connect with your app by taking into account the permissions which are already in place, and takes the onus away from the user to navigate across different tabs by opening everything in a guided pop-up. A few clicks and you're done. The account is connected. To build this experience, we have launched the business login for Instagram. It is as easy as replacing a URL if you're already integrated with the manual login. To help you understand this better, I will now switch over to a demo of what a basic integration with the Messenger API for Instagram looks like, thanks to Swapnil. In order to avoid runtime issues, we have pre-recorded this demo, so let me play this video right now.
Thanks, Tanvi. So now we'll actually dive deeper and build an end-to-end integration with the Instagram APIs from scratch. Whatever we discuss here is applicable to messaging as well as non-messaging APIs, but for the purposes of this demo, we'll be focusing on the messaging APIs. For a developer starting out from scratch, there are broadly 4 steps. The first step is creating and configuring your app on developers.facebook.com. Step 2 is building a test experience. Before you would launch your awesome experiences to your end customers, you would want to test out end-to-end experience for yourself. We'll be spending our bulk of time here. Whatever we discuss and go through will be applicable in step 4 when you broadly launch as well. Cool. So we'll be doing a walkthrough of a sample onboarding to onboard one of your sample IG accounts. We'll cover call conversations API on behalf of that IG account and fetching threadless message history. And after that, we'll work on configuring webhooks and send API, and then thereby build a simple eco bot using this integration. One thing to note particularly about step 2 is that this is all before app review. Before app review, you can only build integrations and get call APIs for a subset of users. In step 3, when you actually submit for app review and after your app is approved, that's after which you can launch the experience broadly to all your customers. Cool. Let's get right into it. Step one is creating an app. We are at developers.facebook.com and we'll create an app here. Our app is a business app because we want to build integrations for businesses. We'll choose that. We'll choose a good name for our app and move on. Cool. So we have our app created here. We'll have the next up, we'll add a few products to use Instagram messaging APIs. We'll be adding the Facebook login for business product.
No.
Instagram login for businesses is built on top of Facebook login. So we'll need to configure and add the Facebook login product here. For configurations, we'll put certain redirect URIs here that is particular to your own website and your app. I put a couple of URLs based on where my test app is hosted today. Actually, that's pretty much it. And we are done. We've configured Facebook login for businesses. Cool. So now that we have our app created, we'll use this app to actually onboard an IG account to the Instagram APIs. We'll copy some configurations to our sample code. We just copied the app ID and paste it here. And this sample app is deployed in a location. I'll be using this to demo the Instagram business login integration demo. Cool. So this is one of my test accounts. It has 2 threads. I'll be using this as an example to onboard onto the Instagram messaging APIs. Here, there's a button which will actually trigger the business login for Instagram. If you look at it, over it, and we'll dive into the code a bit later, you'll see that it actually invokes Facebook login behind the scenes with a few specific parameters that led it into the specific part of the Instagram business login. Now, as we had seen in the video earlier, this is the same flow that's being invoked. The first screen talks about the steps and sets expectations. It's asking me to log into my Instagram accounts that I wish to onboard. I'll be doing that. Like we learned earlier, a Facebook page is needed. And I have a bunch of Facebook pages that I can use with this Instagram account. If I didn't have any other Facebook page, I would also get an option to create one here. So I've selected a Facebook page that I want to connect with the Instagram account. The next screen asks us to review a few things. Let's do that and move on. Behind the scenes, this is connecting the Facebook page that you just selected and your Instagram account. Next up is permission grants. By default, your new IG account that you just logged into should be selected. You can hopefully move on quickly from this step. So the next step is reviewing the permissions that you just gave. Quick reminder here that until your app is reviewed, we'll only be able to do this step for users who have a role on the app. as my personal account, I created this app, so I do have an active role on this app. And let's break down. Cool. At this point, we've granted permissions to the new app for our IG account. Cool. So behind the scenes, once the business granted permissions to your app, it actually got a token which was then exchanged for a paid access token and which had the required permissions. Using that paid access token, we call Conversations API, and this here displays those conversations. As we've seen, there were two threads in my account. This displays both of those two threads. Cool. Now let's go and look at the code behind the scenes which is powering all of this. As soon as the user completed login, we redirected them to this login success handler. With once the user completed login and the permissions grant, there was a code that was generated. You can call by calling Facebook's Graph APIs. You can actually exchange this code for an access token. As the next step, you actually be exchanging this user access token with a paid access token, because to call messaging API, you need paid access tokens. This access token is actually short-lived. The access token that you get by default, you would want to convert it to a long-lived access token so that you don't have to risk these tokens expiring and your integrations breaking. We call yet another API to exchange this access token for a long-lived access token. At this point, you might want to save this access token into some database which is associated with the user so that you don't have to do this again and again. This is all a one-time process. Once you get access token, you can call API on behalf of that IG account. The next step here is around webhook setup. We'll walk through a little bit later in this demo about how to set up webhooks. But as part of onboarding, you want to configure settings between your app and that IG account. This is what this step does. And then finally, as we saw, we use this paid access token to call Conversations API and then display it on the UI. Conversations API is yet another graph API that can be called with paid access token, and it returns a list of threads and messages for that business account. That's what we saw. So, so far we looked at using IG business login for doing two things. One part was configuring the IG professional account itself so that it's usable with the Instagram API. This involved things like connecting that particular professional account with the page, um, granting appropriate permissions. If it's not a professional account, asking the user to convert it into a professional account. That was part one. And the other part was getting permissions for that professional account for your app so that your app can call APIs on behalf of that professional account. With that those access tokens, you can actually call APIs with the on behalf of that professional account once the user gave you appropriate permissions. Cool. Next up, we're going to talk about webhooks and how to configure webhooks for the Instagram account. Webhooks are an important piece of the integration to get real-time notifications. Messaging is time and latency sensitive, so webhooks are a must to get quick notifications when and as users message you. In the same sample app, I have another endpoint which is where which is what listens to the hooks when users message your business. This endpoint will, at a high level, listens to the webhook and then responds back with the same message. So it's like an echo bot. It just listens to the user's message and replies back to give you a sense of how to build bot using the Instagram APIs. We'll be using this endpoint in webhook configuration in next steps. Let's get back to our app at this point. So this is the same app that we earlier created. We'll need to add a few other products to configure webhooks. Let's add the webhook product at this point. Let's also add the messenger product. We'll not go super detailed into it, but the messenger product gives you some quick way of configuring certain things if you own the app as well as the business that you're trying to use with. So getting back to webhooks and the configuration. So here we wanted to listen for Instagram events. We'll select that topic and enter certain configurations. We need a callback URL. This is where Meta would be sending updates as users message your business. I have a sample example setup. I'll be using that URL. And there are a bunch of events that you can choose that you're interested in. Here we are interested in messaging events, so let's subscribe to the message events. All right. So at this point, configure webhooks for your app and subscribe to the messages event. That's really all of it. We can test out our integration now. I'm now going to send a message from my test user. And you can see that the bot replied. So through our webhook configuration, whenever a user messaged the business, on that endpoint, Meta sent you the message payload, and we had code in our webhook implementation that actually listens to the webhook payload and sends response back using the send API. So this sort of gives you a brief and a quick overview of how to build bots using the Instagram messaging APIs. Another thing I would want to point out is that we are still before app review. Until app review is done, webhooks will only work for a certain subset of users. To be more specific, it will only work for users who have role on your app. In the context of Instagram, the connected Facebook account should have a role on this app. So this test user messaged the business. This is my personal account, and the connected Facebook account actually should have a role on the app. The connected Facebook account is the account using which I created the app itself. So the connected Facebook account to this Instagram account actually is the admin on the app. You can also have like testers and developers; those roles will also work. But and before app review, only these webhooks will only work for this particular subset of users. That's pretty much it. So we created and configured an app. We built a test experience. We used Instagram business login to onboard a business account. We called We got access tokens using which we call conversations API to thread history, and then we configured webhooks and built a simple app which can listen to messages and respond back with the same content. Once this is done, and you feel good about the experience that you have built by integrating with your web app, you can submit your app for app review. A few important things about app review: focus on the use cases. There's a wiki link included which talks about the requirements of app review. Make sure you provide all those details. You would also need to submit a screencast depicting your use case and how it falls within Meta's policies. And it takes a few days for app review to be done. Once approved, you're good to go. You can launch this experience to your customers. Thanks, Tanvi. So now we'll actually.
Sorry, let me just get out of the video and move on.
Thanks, Tanvi. So now we'll actually dive deeper.
Okay, never easy navigating across videos. All right, thank you so much for sharing that demo, Swapnil. Now, what does this mean for developers like yourselves who might already have an integration with the Instagram API? If you do, the update is a lot simpler for you. All you need to do is point the interested business to the onboarding button that opens up a URL hosting the new onboarding flow, or the Instagram business login as we call it. If your app is using the manual login flow, then you would need to update the login request URL. This is what it looks like. And you need to include the additional parameters to enable the end-to-end onboarding flow in one window. If your app is using the Facebook login SDK method and has custom steps to connect the Facebook page and Instagram professional account, then you can actually reduce those custom steps and replace them by opening a pop-up using this login link, the Instagram business login link. Once you've done that, similar to today, you will receive a user access token at the end of step 1. And the page access token can be generated using the API. There is no change on that. All you need to do is then test your end-to-end onboarding flow and replace any images you might have across your marketing materials, any links that you have across your website to direct towards the onboarding flow. Don't forget that, otherwise you will have like a split experience where some of your businesses are going through the new onboarding flow, some are still going through the old experience that you might have. So now let's talk about some of the other features that we have launched. The first one that we're going to talk about is how we're making it easy for businesses to connect with users. I'm sure you are familiar with the concept of private replies. The Instagram messaging API allows Instagram businesses to respond to messages that their account gets easily at scale, either in an automated manner or via manual responses from any inbox app you may have developed. However, that is not the only way a business can interact with users who are commenting, for example, on their content. We also have a feature called as private replies. Private replies allow businesses to reply to a user via DMs to comments that the user may have made on the content that they posted. We have had the capability to initiate private replies to comments on organic feed posts and Instagram Live for a while. But over the past couple of months, we have added support for private replies on Instagram Reels, as well as private replies on Instagram ad posts. So when you receive a comments or live comments webhook notification via the Instagram Graph API that a person has, commented on your Instagram professional post, ads post, reel, or live story, you can use the comment ID to send a private reply to that person. This reply will be delivered in the person's inbox folder, If the person follows the business, or if they don't, then it will be delivered to their request folder. The Instagram Graph API comments webhook notification for ads post will include the ID and title for the ad as well. And you may need to update any webhook servers to handle these new fields. But now, like if somebody is running an Instagram ad and wants to be able to, initiate a DM response with people who are commenting on their ads post, they will be able to do so via private replies. Another way we have for businesses to connect with users is via marketing messages on Instagram. You may be familiar with marketing messages or recurring notifications on Messenger. The same functionality has been in testing on Instagram since July of last year, and you have the opportunity to sign up to be a part of the beta as well. This feature allows a business or a user to sign up for messages from a business via Instagram DMs, even if the user hasn't messaged the business in the last 7 days. As you know, like we have the 24 hour and 7 day window where we allow use of the API. So using the API, you can only respond to people who have messaged you in the last 24 hours and manually via the human agent tag within the last 7 days. But if a business wants to deliver regular notifications, updates, etc. to users, then they can ask users to sign up for recurring notifications via this sort of an opt-in template. Once a user has opted in, the business will be able to send messages up to a max of once per calendar day and can be used to send messages related to promotions, reminders, or product alerts. The next category I'll share updates about are around enabling richer interactions. We are also trying to provide richer ways for Instagram businesses to interact with their users through the messaging API. Text messages and images have been supported by the Messenger API for Instagram for a while, but we have 3 new updates on this front. So the first is that we have now added support for video and audio templates on the Send API for Instagram. This will support businesses to have richer interactions with their customers. We currently support MP4 files for video and ACC, M4A, WAV, MP4 files for audio on the Send API. We have also added support for GIF files on the Send API to help businesses have richer interactions with their customers on Instagram messaging. Both URLs and Jiffy GIFs are supported. Now, when thinking of sending multimedia via the Send API, it is important to keep the rate limits in mind to deliver a good user experience. You can find information about the rate limits in the developer documentation as well. So don't worry about missing out this section. Your app can make 100 calls per second per Instagram professional account for messages that contain text, links, reactions, and stickers. But if you're using your app for sending content, which may be audio or video, then your app can make up to 10 calls per second per Instagram professional account for the Send API. Now, we realize that this is not ideal. So if you don't want to be restricted by the rate limits, I strongly recommend you leverage another new API that we have launched recently, which is the Attachment Upload API. The Attachment Upload API allows you to upload video, audio, images, or GIFs, assets that can be sent at a later time. This will help reduce latency when sending files over direct messages. The last update that I have is around ad referral webhooks. This is something that we launched as recently as Feb, so this is hot off the press. We now support ad referral webhooks for the Instagram API. We will pass ads related data such as ad ID and creative URL with the messages webhook when a user sends a message to the Instagram professional account after clicking on a click to direct ad. This feature will allow developers to better track conversations which originate from ads. Please note this is slightly different from the implementation that exists on the Messenger API. For Messenger, ad referral webhooks are sent via the messaging referral webhook, and the developer, like yourself, has to handle two webhooks for click to Messenger ads, the messages webhook and the messaging referral webhook. However, for Instagram, there is only a single webhook, the messages webhook, which will also include the ad information. Okay, so that was the last update I wanted to share. Um, Thank you so much for your patience as we walked through the different features, and I hope you found the demo as well as these feature updates useful.